Danny Dominion and I had always thought number one, we wanted to further our own careers. And both of us had been in the business about 5 years at that time. And being in the business, when I say at that time, is wrestling so sporadically, it wasn't, excuse the squeaky toy, my dog's got a ball. Steel Domain came about because we wanted to further our careers, and so we got a hold of a ring, and we also knew that we were both trained at Windy City Wrestling, which was across town in Chicago. We had left there after a couple of years apiece. We knew their training regimen. We knew the basics from how they trained. We knew we could teach people the basics and then expand on that some. And we also had a lot of great guys around the area that were old AWA enhancement guys, Rockin' Randy Ritchie. We had, in time, worked with Sonny Rogers, who's one of our old mentors. We had a lot of different hands in the cookie jar. Kevin Quinn at the time, a forgotten name, but you'll see his name pop up in most Punk bios and Cabana bios, and Pierce's bio. Just a lot of different names would come in and work with us and train. And some of the old Windy City workers would come in too, just because the skinny kids had a place. And we put this thing together, and people just started showing up. And we had two different versions of the school, like it moved two different locations. And once we got it going, and I was more or less the trainer on hand, the hands-on guy in the ring. Dominion did a lot more into the business end. I didn't want to fool with any of that BS at the time, Got connected with Minnesota. We ended up driving up there, and we started taking our crew on the road, and it got to be a cool thing. We actually built a crew of guys that we could put a show on together, which we ran some shows around town. I mean, we really just started learn. That's when you really started to learn more and more about the business at that point. How do you run your crew? How do you structure a show, matches, all that good stuff? I mean, just good times. And those two guys, they eventually got keys to the place, and they would just show up and either start practice, run practice if we couldn't make it that night, or just show up themselves on weekends and work because they couldn't get in there in the week. So, I mean, there's plenty of other guys that I think had potential. It just either, obviously didn't work out for them like it worked out for the two prime, or they just weren't able to take the extra steps like travel and make no money for, a couple of years, or get away every weekend, or, invest the time that those two could.
And what did you like the most about actually getting in the ring and mentoring and training younger guys? And since you weren't that much older, I'm sure, than some of the trainees that you had coming in. So what was it like giving them your take at that point of your career?
Very interesting, but I think I was a good coach as far as, finesse and seeing what looks right and being able to. See, the reason I was in the ring so much is because it's very easy to tell somebody. It's not easy to tell somebody how to do something. Can you articulate it? Can you do it yourself? You can do it yourself, but can you articulate it and train somebody else to do it? So I'd find myself always rolling in the ring and doing reversals and stuff, so that way I could break it down and tell them exactly how to do it. So that way, they can, it was wash, rinse, repeat, just keep doing it. I can explain this to you. I would do drills with them to keep myself in shape. I mean, we were at that place probably 3-4 times a week, and then wrestling on weekends, and to the point where we were just wrestling all the time, and we just didn't focus on the school anymore. So I mean, I love training guys. I still do at times. It depends, what you're doing. If guys want to listen, it's awesome.
Do you think the crop of guys trying to get into the business is a little bit different these days versus late 90s?
Way different, and this is coming from a guy that, by all rights, anybody would, roll their eyes at me for training 5 years in the business at that point, because I was a nobody. Who's this guy running a school? And you've got that today, but you've got more guys getting. I mean, it's more accessible. I mean, you could buy a ring off High Spots. You can buy a ring off anywhere. You can buy a ring off Ringside Cages in Kansas City. You can get the setup. Anyone can buy boots. Anybody can buy this. And I mean, it's really not so closed anymore. So I think guys, I think it's a lot harder in ways, for people to choose where to train. But in another way, I think it's a little easier because you've got a handful of schools out there that are credible that you can look at that you're going to go to. I mean, when I started, if I knew Lance Storm had a school at that time back then, because I even looked into the Hearts when I was a kid. You know, just so happens that Windy City Wrestling, who's on Sports Channel and I could watch on weekends, was running a promotion and a school. Why would I leave Chicago? But, you know, I'd go look at Lance Storm. He's got the connections. You know, he's been everywhere. You'd go up there, you'd work for him. Harley, based out of St. Louis, you'd go there, connections with WWE, with, you know, Japan, you know, New Japan and Noah, just, you know, and wherever you go. And there's other schools I'm forgetting, but, I mean, just for instance, I mean, to me it's a little easier, you know. I think I almost called him Tyler Black. Seth Rollins, he runs a school with Merritt Brave. Why wouldn't you go there? The guy's on TV. He's your world champion right now. Why wouldn't you go live in Davenport, Iowa, where those guys are based? I mean, to me, it makes the choice easier. Where back then, it was just all over the place. There was only, you've got a lot of people nowadays and you hear this a lot, you know, do your homework, you see what those people can do for you.
Now, looking back, do you remember